In August 1971, Zimbardo built a fake prison in a Stanford basement. He paid college students $15 a day to be guards or prisoners. The most feared guard was a theater student who later admitted he was performing. The prisoner who had a breakdown admitted, 4 decades later, that he had faked it. This documentary asks how that performance became 50 years of prison science, and why no one was ever held responsible for what it cost. You answer a newspaper ad for a psychology study, $15 a day. 2 days later, you are in a basement, wearing a number and a chain. Men in uniforms and mirrored sunglasses strip you of your name. You have not been charged with any crime. The men with the batons are also here for the $15. But you have no way of knowing that yet. The Stanford prison experiment ran for 6 days in August 1971. Philip Zimbardo was a 38-year-old psychology professor with a theory to prove his theory: give people power over others and watch what the power does. He recruited 24 male students, selecting those judged psychologically stable. They were assigned randomly. A coin flip determined who would be guard or prisoner. Zimbardo arranged for local police to arrest the prisoners at their homes without warning. Each was booked, fingerprinted, blindfolded, and driven to a basement on Stanford's campus. They were stripped, assigned numbers, and locked with a chain around one ankle. The guards received uniforms, mirrored sunglasses, wooden batons, and one instruction. Zimbardo told them to create a feeling of powerlessness in the prisoners. Within 1 day, guards were inventing humiliations no one had suggested to them. One guard stood out from the rest on the very first shift. His name was Dave Eshelman, an 18-year-old student at Chapman University. He had taken acting classes and performed in plays through junior college. Eshelman arrived for his first shift and immediately noticed the problem. Nothing was happening. Prisoners sat quietly and the guards stood around doing little. Eshelman decided the experiment was in danger of producing nothing worth studying. He consciously built a character, drawing directly on his acting training. The model was the sadistic prison warden from the 1967 film Cool Hand Luke. He adopted a southern drawl and took the nickname John Wayne. He said the experiment needed energy and he was going to provide it. He ordered prisoners to do push-ups on the concrete for the smallest infractions. He made them recite humiliating phrases aloud to each other inside their cells. He put prisoners in solitary confinement inside a small closet they called the Hole. In a recorded interview after the study, Eshelman described exactly what he had done. He said, "What came over me was not an accident. It was planned." He was running his own improv exercise inside the experiment. He wanted to see how far the situation could go before someone stopped him. Not one of the other guards told him to stop. Zimbardo, watching from an observation room, recorded everything as data. Then, on day 2, a prisoner named Doug Corpy began to cry and hyperventilate. He raged and screamed until Zimbardo's team released him from the experiment. Zimbardo watched the breakdown and saw evidence that his theory was correct. What the official account did not record was what Corpy said 40 years later. He told journalist Ben Blum in 2018 the breakdown was fabricated. He had wanted to leave, but the team told him there was no exit. The only way out, they told him, was to fall completely apart. So he performed the collapse, and it was logged in the data as fact. By day 5, a third of the prisoners showed signs of genuine psychological distress. On day 6, Zimbardo's girlfriend visited the study and was horrified. She told Zimbardo he had lost his ethical grounding inside his own experiment. He shut the study down on the morning of the 7th day. Here is what the official version of this story never fully addressed. In 2018, journalist Ben Blum accessed audio recordings from Stanford's own archive. In one recording, research assistant David Jaffe is coaching a guard before a shift. Jaffe told him to be what they called a tough guard. The guards were not discovering an inner darkness. They were following a direction. Zimbardo maintained for 50 years that the guard's behavior had emerged spontaneously. The tape said something different in his own research assistant's voice. In 1971, the same year as the Attica prison riots, Congress invited Zimbardo to testify. He told Congress that prisons, not individuals, produced the cruelty. His study became part of the case for prison reform through the following decade. In 2004, he went on television to argue Abu Ghraib proved his 1971 findings right. His book, The Lucifer Effect, made the same argument to a wide audience in 2007. In 2002, a separate research team tried to replicate the study. The guards in that replication did not become brutal. Psychologist Alex Haslam concluded, "The standard account of the research has no credibility whatsoever now. No ethics board was formally convened to review Zimbardo's conduct of the study." Dave Eshelman, who invented the cruelty as a theatrical exercise, faced no formal consequences. Philip Zimbardo died in October 2024, at the age of 91. He never formally retracted his central claims about the experiment. His study is still cited in over 1,000 peer-reviewed papers. What is worth sitting with here is what this study was asked to carry. 6 days in a basement became 50 years of evidence about human nature. That evidence traveled from Stanford's basement into congressional testimony and prison reform debates. Psychology courses worldwide still assign the Stanford prison experiment as foundational reading. Most of those syllabi do not include the Jaffe coaching recordings. They do not include the 2002 replication study that produced no brutality at all. They do not include Eshelman's admission that he was performing. The students who read those textbooks will carry this model of human nature forward into medical practice, legal argument, and decisions about who deserves to be incarcerated. The argument that environments make monsters is not wrong on its face, but the evidence used to prove it was staged for a researcher's benefit. The deeper question is not whether Zimbardo was dishonest. The deeper question is why his version of events was so useful to so many. Legislators needed an explanation for prison violence that pointed at systems, not at individuals. Zimbardo gave them one, and the authority of science gave it permanence. The institutional review boards that govern psychology research today exist partly because of this study, but the study itself has never been formally retracted. It is still cited in over 1,000 peer-reviewed papers. What remains unanswered is how many other foundational studies rest on the same ground. The National Geographic documentary aired in November 2024, 1 month after his death. It featured Eshelman admitting he was performing and Corpi admitting he was faking. Zimbardo, in one of his final interviews, maintained every claim he had ever made. His obituaries called him one of the most influential psychologists who ever lived. He died before the documentary reached its full audience. He played his role for 6 days. Psychology played it for 50 years.